Welcome to everweird, where I am playing the Gunderholfen Mega Dungeon using the Beckme D&D rules from the 1980s and 90s. Yeah, where to start? So, I guess a few bookkeeping things. Possibly you saw this on my YouTube short. I made some character sheets and tracking sheets, things like that, so I could print them out and wouldn't have to keep redrawing party trackers within my notebook. So I made a party sheet that has 4 little mini character sheets on it. Made a hireling sheet where I can track every hireling that I have. I made an inventory sheet so I can keep up with torches, rations, arrows, and all the other consumables that I've got, as well as my treasure. And I made my own Dungeoneering time sheet so that I can put in hours of the day here and track a little bit more precisely like what time of day it is. Although, as I've noted before, my party rarely spends more than an hour or two in the dungeon. Despite always having an aversion to fantasy names for months, because I find them to be confusing when you're trying to talk about the middle winter month, and rather than saying December or January, you have a crazy elvish name for it or something like that. I made a calendar with month names, but I used an old farmer's almanac, or I combined a couple. I can't really remember where I came up with all the names, to show a little bit more like seasonality to those month names rather than having fantasy sounding names for the month. This, to me, feels a little bit easier to keep up with, and it allows me to track through the months. You probably recall I was using an old school calendar, which I really love the design of. What it did was divided the year into seasons, and you just tracked each season as though it lasted a month. And I wanted a little bit more precision for Gunderholfen. I knew this was going to be a long campaign, and so I wanted to actually go through 12 months. So yeah, what I did was I took these names that I found in some almanacs and applied them to months that roughly equal our real months, and then divided that into seasons and divided each day into 3 watches so I can track that. We're on the 22nd day in the evening, the 3rd watch for this campaign. So that's some bookkeeping. Secondly, I have spoken before about my reticence to hire retainers because I didn't really know how to run them or how it would work in my campaign. You know, I want to play a solo campaign where there is some role playing going on. It's not just mechanical features of the characters involved. And because of that, once you add more than a couple of characters, it just becomes really difficult to manage all the personalities around and actually feel some like dynamism happening between those characters and some changes in the way that their adventures are being shaped by their personalities. If I'm just running 10 characters who are nothing but mechanical stats, I don't think I'm going to get that dimension that I want. So I struggled a lot, and then in session 8, because I lost a beloved character in session 7, my characters went and hired some retainers. They also recruited a couple people into their party, and in session 8, I was just managing all these people and shooting a heck of a lot of arrows at goblins, but didn't feel like I had a handle on the party. And I have since, in the downtime after that session, I've kind of figured out what I want to do with that. So you see on my party sheet here that I have 4 names. I have Talira and Virago, who started the party. I have Faqual, who is the magic user, recommended to them by Balfour, Talira's patron as well. And then I have Blaine, the cleric that my characters recruited in session 8. It is no coincidence that I have the 4 archetypal classes here. I've got thief, fighter, magic user, and cleric. What I decided happened in the story is that after this triumph of routing the goblins and killing the Goblin King in the last session, my halfling Irwin put on the horned helmet of this Goblin King and sort of came into her own. I didn't have a great backstory for her. I knew she just wanted to adventure and didn't like the city. And then she lost her friend Dobahai in an early adventure. And I think what has happened in that last session, as she felt the evil of the goblins and their chaotic ways and just wanted to be rid of them and had these hirelings at her back. She realized what she wanted to do was not so much be a treasure hunter and an adventurer in that sense, but be a monster fighter and like a mercenary for hire. My hirelings are now known as the Dobahai Division, and they are led by Irwin. The dwarf, I had taken a pre-generated dwarf for my last session named Greedo. I've renamed that dwarf Grebe. Grebe has joined this party, but for the purposes of my party, they are all using fighter stats. That just seems a little bit easier for me to manage, and it was probably based on a misunderstanding that I had about hirelings and retainers in BECME. I've got right here the section on non-player characters, which is where we find information about hirelings. And as I had first read this section, and I'll admit I have like a real ADHD kind of way of approaching walls of text like this. I just sort of skim looking for the things that I can pull out and grab onto and understand. It's especially hard in older RPG books and even newer RPG books where there's some kind of understanding that you're going to get this in a later chapter if you read every word of this book. I still don't think I have a great understanding of how BECME D&D intended this to happen, but I believe this part right here in hiring retainers, where it talks about the DM must make up character sheets for all retainers. I believe what they may have intended you to do was just roll up a new character with a class. If that makes sense to me. I mean, but at that point, you're managing another character who has a full set of character stats, and that is not only uninteresting to me, it slows it down. It doesn't make the distinction to me between a retainer and a party member. What I want are retainers who are terracotta soldiers in that aspect. Like they are all the same and they are just sort of like marching behind to help support the stars of the show, which are the party. So in my mind, and especially because it talks about type of mercenary, archer, bowman, crossbowman, footman, horseman, these are all fighters, despite the fact that it gives some species or folk options for these, dwarves, elves, orcs, or goblins that you could hire as mercenaries. To me, they were all fighters. So when I made these sheets, which are available on my itch, by the way, in my mind, I was just making a sheet to track a whole bunch of fighters that would be my retainers. That's how I'm going to play it. They're all fighters. I'm not really sure how I want to level them up differently, Once I do that, I'm going to have to change the layout of the sheet. For now, they all have the same saves and same HD. So let me quickly write in the saves for a fighter. But yeah, that seemed to be the quickest way for me to refer to this. When I hired them, the Archer Zenith was 5 gold per month. Pelagius was a light footman, and Hinth a heavy foot person, both of them being foot people, and they were 2 and 3 gold per month. So I had sort of 10 gold per month here. Irwin and Grebe are going to come in at 5 gold each. So I have 20 gold per month. And Irwin is probably going to advocate for better wages for her mercenaries in the Dobahai Division. But for right now, I've got 5 hirelings. This is how I'm going to be tracking them with their separate XP, and I've got their weapons noted over here, etc. Okay, let's talk some XP. I did this off camera so I could get it all straight, but I still only came up with around 400 XP for all the goblins that my characters had encountered and defeated, for whatever that means. Maybe not killed, but in some way defeated. And to split that up among 4 main characters and 5 hirelings, that's a part I just don't understand. Like I guess I want my hirelings to level up, but I'm wrestling with this. So I'm gonna wrestle with this on camera. It's only gonna be about like 45 XP per person. I'm gonna round that up to 50 to just be nice. I have some ideas of like how to, basically I need like a homebrew rule that I can take into this and say every time I conquer a level of Gunderholfen, I'm going to give my party like an XP bonus. I just haven't decided exactly what that is yet. And they technically haven't cleared the first level entirely. That's sort of what I'm thinking. They'll get XP for treasure and for conquering monsters. If I'm in a tight spot, I may do the bonus of like a 20% bonus to their next level kind of XP bump. But then I think if once they clear out a whole level and feel safe about it, there will be an XP bump there as well. So 50 is going to put them in like the 380 range. Fakwal, I don't know that I missed something because I know Fakwal should have had XP from a prior session and it's not on there. So that is where I stand as far as bookkeeping goes, and a little bit of the storytelling came out there as well. So Irwin has put on this horned helmet that was previously possessed by the Goblin King, and Irwin is feeling this like kind of Avenger status of like she is going to lead these monster hunters for hire and help adventuring parties clear out dungeons for reasonable wages. That's what she's in it for. One thing I forgot about the halfway point of the last session is that my characters had found a golem that they had brought to life by Grebe speaking Dwarvish around it, exclaiming in Dwarvish their surprise at this statue, and the statue came to life, and this goblin has been following them around from room to room, just following Grebe's orders because it only answers to Dwarvish. It's obviously a relic of the Gunderholfen stronghold when it was a dwarven stronghold. And I've got this golem with me. This golem, in fact, traveled to see Janice's family, the prisoner that they returned to her farming community, and it has now helped clear out the dungeon with them. So when I say clear out, they were able to, I don't know if my map will translate very well right now, but they were able to clear out sort of a guard room where there was several guards and a lieutenant, and then they went back into this room, which had a big fire burning. They found sort of the king of the goblins and his bodyguards, who were a little bit tougher and worth a bit more XP, of course, but were tougher than most of the goblins they'd fought. They'd also found this room full of young goblins and their caretakers, and they haven't done anything about that. I had them sort of march into the sunset as they unlocked this door and headed out here to the third section of this first level of the dungeon. But I think they get in there and they talk about what's ahead, and they talk about what they need to get done on the other side of this. They're fairly certain there are hobgoblins over there. They're a little bit frightened of that, of course, but they also want to... they want to be smart about it, but they also want to make sure that their job is done as far as what they promised the kobolds in another section of the dungeon. So what they do is they regroup in this guard room where they can lock it up, and they say, we should probably spend the night somewhere in here. But right now we've got a whole bunch of goblins in this room. We don't know what they're capable of. They also know there's some goblins in like a kitchen up here and over here. They're fairly certain they can lock or jam these doors here and spend the night in this room if they wanted to. But they're also considering something a little crazy. So after regrouping and Irwin talking specifically to the retainers that they have brought along, and them sort of beginning to reorganize into like a main party fighter, thief, cleric, and magic user, and sort of a secondary hireling party of fighters, they come up with this idea in the midst of that and talking about what they want to do. Irwin wants to rid the Dungeon of Goblins and fulfill a contract with the kobolds to a degree. She, with ideas from others, proposes marching down this hall and causing a spectacle of fire using the rest of their burning oil to scare these goblins north. They can jam this door, they can jam this door, they can just basically like route these goblins so that they're going to have to run into the connection to the kobold side of this level. And once there, they can once again lock or jam those doors, and they're the kobold's problem. So they spend some time jamming these doors, locking them in a way that the goblins can't pass. I think they're not going to worry about locking this area up here, because if the goblins want to hide out up here, that's one thing. And if they want to just run out of the dungeon itself, my party is fine with that. Or are they? I don't think they are. Never mind. Some of them go up here and jam this door. They then come back down here. That way they don't have to worry about this door right here. They have a route to the outside. They jam this door so that those goblins who hopefully run up this northern passage can't get in this door. They jam this door so that they can't hide out in the chief's room. They will drag the chief and his bodyguards' bodies out here into the hallway. So once they run through this door, they see the destruction that my party has caused, and they route in this way. Once they've jammed this door, there's no way those goblins can run up here and escape. I mean, obviously, there are probably so many of them they could knock down a door, but we're fairly certain they're going to run this way and to the kobold lair. What to do about the goblins in the kitchen? I think the first thing my party does is they come up here and they start locking doors and following them. They go to this door where the kitchen is. They don't actually know what that room looks like beyond there, but they're going to jam that door, knowing that the goblins on the inside are probably going to start running at that door and trying to open it. But nonetheless, that's what we're going to do. The way they're going to do that is Virago. Yeah, book says there are 12 goblins in there. As I've established, I have slain so many goblins that there are only 9 left in there. So there are going to be 9 who are trying to make forced door checks to get out, but Virago and my party are going to be reinforcing that door from the outside and just trying to lock it. So Virago sets about banging in a spike, and the book also specifies that the goblins in the kitchen are so busy with their work that they do not even notice the PCs for an entire round. I get 1 spike in there for free, and we keep pounding. Do the goblins hear me? Whoops, I rolled a yes, no die, and I got a yes. Goblins start coming to the door to try to open it. There are 9 in there. My party is going to try to resist their banging it open. What's happening is I've got 5 fighters and Blaine bracing this door on one side, and Virago hammering spikes into the door to jam it shut. And there's 9 little goblins banging against it, throwing pots and pans and everything, trying to get out. They're not going to be able to get out until I've got it spiked. So the question is, like, how many spikes do I get into it? I have typically done like 5 spikes in a door, but I think they just keep going, and we put like 10 spikes in this door. So I'm just going to start crossing that off. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 10 spikes in there. I've trapped the goblins in the kitchen. We go trap this door. We march down here. We pull the bodies out. We trap this door. So we're leaving this door open so that the goblins hopefully here will just route out. We go in here. We spike this door. This door we have sort of trapped or something that it's open. I mean, it's unlocked, but like we'll be in this room or something like that. And eventually my party goes down this hallway, keeping to the wall because they want to make a really dramatic entrance. They set off a flask of oil in this huge fireball in their own hallway. And from that fire, Irwin walks out with this horned helmet on that they know used to belong to their leader and starts shouting at them. They share no common language. The goblins don't understand this, but then this voice of Faqual comes behind them, and he shouts in the chaotic language, "Leave, we are in control of the dungeon now." And behind Irwin, 2 more flasks of oil are set off, so these huge fires erupt. Sure enough, goblins start panicking. They start running up here. Someone in this room that was never explored hears this commotion, this melee, and opens that door, and they see all these goblins running out. They join the panic and run away. Everyone runs out into the kobold lair. My party then guards their doors. Some of them hang back to guard these doors till Virago, Blaine, and probably Irwin, because she knows this. They go up here. They will explore this room that's attached here that goes to the kobold lair, and they will jam it shut. So there's a door over here that's jammed shut, at least temporarily. Given enough goblins, they could always open a door. But for the night, we're feeling pretty safe. These goblins, I guess, no. I'm not going to jam the door shut with the kobolds. I'm going to jam this door shut right here next to this like V entrance. So if these goblins from the kitchen get out, the only way they can sort of route around without banging down more doors is here. We'll drag the body of their chief into this hallway. So if anyone comes in here, they see it. Perhaps I'll put one of the bodyguards' bodies into this room. So anything passing through there is just, any goblin is going to be frightened that their leaders are slain, and hopefully get the message and get out of here. With that all done, it was in the evening when we came into the dungeon. So we will once again rest in that interior room, that guard room that we can easily keep ourselves in, and where there's a locked door that heads to the next layer within this level of the dungeon. We rest for the evening, so that means that anyone down on hit points will regain 1 hit point. Paul, Blaine, yeah, my main party is all up on their hit points, but Hinth was down 1, so Hinth is back to full. One of the aspects of Ironwind taking on the retainer party, like as her own band of mercenaries, is that Hinth is kind of in debt to my party because he started a fight with a wild boar out in the swamp where he lost a couple of hit points, actually went to 0, and they had to spend a health potion to bring him back up. It feels a bit like we already had to spend 50 gold keeping you alive. We're only paying you 5 gold a month. You need to step up. So Ironwind's sort of taking that on as someone who had a share of the loot before and can, she has some assets she can put to this and keep this small army of hirelings running. So I have decided to map again on one of these dot grid cards. You probably can't see the dot grid on it. I also can't see it on there because it is so washed out and tiny. But after the evening passes and my party rests, has some food, they will then venture down this hallway that was previously locked. Like they kind of had to assault this whole dungeon just to find the keys to this door because Talira could not unlock it. So they are coming through a hallway, coming from the west, headed to the east. The kobolds had told them when they made the treaty with them that just keep heading east and south and you will eventually find a way to get to deeper levels of the dungeon. But right now we're headed straight up to a portcullis they see in the distance here. I'm going to draw a little bit more of the room beyond just so I can keep up with it. The portcullis is closed and will require a bend bars, lift gates roll to open it or a combined strength of 25 to lift it. I got to go for the strength. I'm playing Beckme. I don't have any bend bars, lift gates powers, and I do have plenty of fighters. So we see the door beyond it. We are pretty aware that anything that we do with this portcullis, once we get a hold of it and start pulling on those bars, Ironwind looks back at Virago and says, "It's going to make a lot of noise, boss." And Virago says, "We got to do what we got to do." So all my ranged fighters, that includes Zenith, who has a bow, as well as like Talira. Blaine will take up his sling. Virago will grab a javelin. They are all sort of standing back, ready to attack anything that comes through that door. And the other fighters, Adventurer specifies that a combined strength of 25 will lift this. So the other fighters grab a hold of it, my hirelings, and they start lifting. This makes a horrendous screeching noise. 1 round later, we'll bring guards in from this room right here. Of course, once we get in, we see that there's a lever there that we probably could have arranged some way to pull that lever and release this. I'm just playing it off like we didn't notice, and we got there just and figured we'd brute force through. I got a party of fighters, basically, so that's what they do. 3 hobgoblins are gambling and drinking in this room, and they hear a bunch of noise. About 10 seconds after I've started lifting the gate, they hear it, and they come running in here. I've got the drop on them because I was ready for anyone coming through that door, so I'm just going to start firing missiles at them, and Talira will go first. The hobgoblins have an AC of 5. My 19 hits. Immediately drops the first hobgoblin. Virago throws a javelin at the second. An 11 plus their 5, 16 will not hit, or at least won't stick. Blaine fires a sling at the third. 9's not going to do it. Zenith is the only other one I have. Zenith fires a bow. 19 hits that second one and doesn't take it out, but does a lot of damage. So I've got 1 hobgoblin at full strength and 1 who's been badly hurt. All right, so the hobgoblins take their turn. They're armed with a ranseur, and they do have a better Thaco than I do. My fighters are basically in front. They're the kind of wall right there. So they come after Hinth, who does not have his shield right now, so his AC is going to be a 6. First one comes through for Hinth. Thank goodness they did not hit. Next one strikes at Pelagius. Also did not hit. And that was the 2 of them, so I roll for initiative. They go first. They're going to keep fighting because they're a little drunk and they want to take me down. So Hinth, 15 plus that is going to hit. Hinth drops to 0. Wow. Okay. So it's always like a surprise when this happens, even though it makes perfect sense. Ironwind is not feeling great about her first command. Okay, next one swings at Pelagius, misses. So it is on my initiative. All my ranged fighters let loose first. Talira, bow, misses. Virago, javelin, misses. Blaine, sling, 15 will hit for 6 points. Takes out that second hobgoblin. Zenith, bow, 14 is going to hit. 2 points on the third, so it's got an arrow sticking out of it. It's looking pretty bad. And at this point, all of my fighters can join in. So Irwin stabs out with her spear. Doesn't get there. Greaves swings that warhammer. Doesn't do it. Pelagius. Cracked dime. 11 doesn't get it done. Faqual is hanging back. He's once again prepared magic missile for the day and doesn't know if he should let it loose right now. It looks like this hobgoblin is doing pretty poorly, but Hinth is not moving. So I need to roll initiative. I get to go first. Thank goodness. Talira, bow, misses. Virago, now grabbing their sword, will take a swing. 15 hits, 4 points of damage. This hobgoblin is still up with 1 point. Blaine grabs his warhammer and comes in, misses. Irwin with the spear, hits, takes it out. So this third hobgoblin goes down. In the downtime between sessions, and thanks to the comments of very helpful people on my other videos, I was reminded about this death in the campaign section. As many people pointed out, BECME is really like a kind of a basic game with a ton of options for characters to kind of build out your character into a full, almost AD&D type character. But there is a section on keeping characters alive as a variant rule. And what they suggest in BECME is when a character is reduced to 0 hit points or below in combat, he's not dead yet, he's unconscious and mortally wounded, he must make a saving throw versus death ray every turn. Come on, D&D, it was the 90s. Makes the first roll on the round, they drop to 0 points. They make another every round, they take additional damage, and every 10 minutes, so 1 turn in addition. So basically the way I had been playing it out, the difference is I was playing kind of a variant that came from Morkborg, which is at 0 points you can do that. But if I was reducing a character below 0, I was saying they were automatically dead. So I'm left at this point where Hinth has gone below 0 because he took 6 points of damage and had 4 HP. I can play by this variant rule and say that he gets to make a death save, or I can play by the rule that I had previously instated, which is that because he went below 0, he's just dead. And I think that's what I'm going to do because I want to keep it a little bit consistent right now, and I want to reinforce the fragility of these characters. And to be frank, Hinth is a bit of a liability. He keeps doing stupid things. He has come through, I believe, in a couple of important moments, but him getting struck first by this hobgoblin is by no means a surprise to my party, and they are sad. Irwin feels her first taste of like failure as a leader, but this was a careless person who was carelessly knocked unconscious by a warthog earlier. And there's a sense of like, maybe Hinth was looking for a way out or something like that. So Hinth has passed on, will not do death saves, carries a spear and a morning star, but more importantly has chain armor, I believe. I'm going to look up that. Because Hinth was the heavy foot person who wore chain at a shield and a sword. So that chain is going to go to my light footman, Pelagius. So Pelagius will then improve from a 6 armor class to a 5 armor class, I believe, if not lower. I don't know why it'd be lower. The shield, yeah. So the chain is 5. And that's right. And Pelagius had leather, which was a 7, with the shield was a 6. Pelagius will have a 5 with the shield, have a 4. So Pelagius doing a bit better there. And we pause outside this door, making sure that it is shut and wondering how best to memorialize Hinth or pay respect to him. Zenith will take up his morning star and spear. They cover his body. They put him in the corner of this room. Irwin says, we'll make every effort to come back for you and give you a proper burial, but we feel like we must act a little quickly now. They open up this guard room, or the room they don't yet know is a guard room, but where those guards appeared from. It is lit by a torch, and there's a door to the north. It is wooden and starting to rot. There are 10 iron spikes hammered into a line in the door. As quietly as she can, I didn't mark my spikes off here, but as quietly as she can, Irwin starts removing those spikes and dropping them into her bag to use in my inventory. So we do our usual. We approach that door to the north, and we all listen. I will roll Talira first. She has 30% chance of hearing noises. 46 doesn't make it. Here goes everybody. Wait, do I only have 6 now? 1, 2, 3, 6, and Irwin. So I got 6 in Irwin. Irwin has a 1-2. Nobody hears any noises, so they are pretty confident that there's nothing on the other side of this door. They're all at least in agreement, we didn't hear anything. So they take up positions to guard it, and Virago will open that door. When they do, they find there is a short corridor, and perhaps this is why they didn't hear any noises. It's about a 10-foot corridor, and there is a door at the other end of that corridor. So they approach that door. They listen again. At least one person would hear any noise if there were some. And here comes Talira, doesn't hear anything. I'm going to say it's Grebe, thinks, it doesn't sound like there's anything on the other side of this door. They take up positions again, creak it open, and it is about a 20 by 20 foot square room. On the west wall of this room is a banner, crudely drawn, depicting hobgoblins killing humans. Scrawled at the bottom of the banner in common is "What Negruf did at Hrungoth." So it sounds like they're celebrating some kind of victory over humans. What I see is that there is a more narrow passage to the northwest, and then what looks like kind of like a cave passage ahead with some rough stairs, I think, going down. We're going to do the usual and peer around the corner here to see where this hallway leads to. It continues, at least I'm going to have to strike up a torch, and that means I need to start tracking my time. Let's say we started this at 7 in the morning is when I woke up to start chewing bubblegum and fighting hobgoblins. 10 minutes getting over there, and combined a 10 minutes inspecting these rooms. So we're 20, 30 minutes into our day and 20, 30 minutes into this torch. They also look down the passage to the north. It looks kind of sandy, and it looks like there's fungus growing on the walls. Although this looks narrow to the west, it is actually about 5 feet wide, so it doesn't feel really narrow. But I think I'm just going to do this. 1, we go west. 2, we go north. 1, we go west. Okay. So we creep down this hallway to the west, and there's a little bend in the hallway that we can't see around, and we see a northwest passage. We all do our normal listening. Talira doesn't hear anything. No one else seems to hear anything. We think it's safe. We are going to head south because we can tell that it sort of ends pretty quickly there. It looks like there is another kind of cave-like opening. It's like a rough passage. We smell like a watery smell. So we walk down this passage, and there are 3 buckets tied to ropes sitting on the rim of a well. It looks like a normal well. It looks like a normal distance to the bottom. I can read ahead and see that there is a possibility of getting poisoned if you drink the water, or at least getting a serious stomach ache, according to the book. But my party is pretty well equipped with water skins, and at this moment, at 7 a.m. in the morning, aren't concerned with filling up with hobgoblin water. So we head to the north, of course, being as quiet as we can, and we see that there's another, we're not going to see all of this, but there's some sort of passage off to the east about 30 feet up the hallway from where we are. So as we approach, there's a smell of waste. We've run into this before on both the kobold lair, or in the kobold lair and in the goblin lair, where they just sort of pick a room and it becomes their garbage room, their toilet, whatever, smelling what we smell in this room, we continue heading north and don't check that room too carefully. Irwin was the one that we lowered down into the goblin's trash pit, and she is not excited to try that again. We can at least wave a torch in there and see that the back of the wall, and see that there's nothing moving or nothing that seems like a threat to us. So we continue. About 20 more feet to the north, we see another passageway break off to the east, and it seems like the passage continues to the north for at least 15, 20 more feet. So we all hang around the corner right here. We do our listening as well as we can. At least one person and Talira will hear anything that is there, but that's nothing. We don't hear anything. We peek around the corner, confident that there's nothing in there. We see one of those things that's like maybe a little bit creepier than monsters, which is thousands of delicate webs fill this small room, and there are hundreds of tiny white spiders occupying the webs. I don't have any precedent for wanting to inspect spider webs or anything like that. Between the now, 9 of us? 8 of us. Yes. Someone is going to think, why don't we just burn these webs? Grebe leans in with her torch and sets these webs on fire. And within a couple of minutes, a couple people follow suit. These webs burn up. Tiny white spiders seem to disappear into the walls, but also underfoot. We're smashing them up as much as we can. And beneath the webs, we see a small altar, on top of which is a clay statuette of a dog. Once again, I've forgotten that I do have a clay golem walking along behind us that I'm hopefully going to use to some tactical advantage in the near future. But for now, Grebe sees that and says to the dog, "Come," in Dwarvish. And the dog does not come. It does not animate like the golem before. So we just have a new treasure, which is this clay statue of dog, and it's worth 1 gold. All right, we continue heading to the north, and as there is a corner up here where it turns, we see there's a door. The hall seems to continue to the east for many feet, at least like the reach of our torch. But do we check this door to the north? So here comes that listen at the doors roll. Talira comes up with nothing. Everyone else shoots their shot, and a couple of them will hear something if there is anything in there. No, it doesn't seem like there is. So once again, they're pretty confident that no one is in this room, and they go into it. They open that door. Nothing indicates it is locked or anything, so they carefully open this door and proceed in. An assortment of colorful banners, tapestries, and moth-eaten wall hangings cover the walls. On the left side of the room is a pile of dirty cushions, and that is what we see. Talira has... trying to think if she can use some of her thief skills here. She can't, and I'm metagaming to an extent, but I have not used this skill before, which is that anyone can search for a secret door with a 1 in 6 chance. So I'm thinking I might search for a secret door. I know that there's a secret door there, but let's try that 1 in 6 chance. If we come up with nothing, great. But I got 8 people standing in this room full of tapestries. They're wondering why no one's here. One of them, when leaning against this northern section of the wall, realizes there is probably a secret door and room behind it. So they take up their guard positions and they push it open, and they find 2 chests within this room. Wow. Okay, Talira, it's time to step up. Talira is going to try her find traps on the first chest. Fails. But she doesn't necessarily know that. She inspects the chest and says, I think it's okay. A couple of them cover their noses and mouths in case some poison gas is released or something, and Talira opens this up. It is unlocked. It contains robes and a potion of healing. So my party gains 200 XP from that, which is great. And then it suggests 400 GP. I'm not really sure if that means that's what the potion is worth, or there's an additional 400 GP. Generally, this adventure has specified when there is additional gold, so I think that they're just telling me that the potion is worth 400. So I have 1 more health potion. That's great. And Talira is going to try to find traps on the second chest. fails horribly. So doesn't know if there are any traps there, but this chest, so Talira thinks this chest is also not trapped and tries it. It is locked. So she is going to try to pick that lock. Open locks is a 15. I got to roll 15 or under. 85. Not going to do it. So this chest remains locked, and I can't try again until Talira levels up. So I don't know what's in there. It is constructed of iron. This seems pretty significant. We ask Grebe and Pelagius to carry this chest of iron. The more treasure we pick up, the sooner we're going to need to leave to safety so that we're not lugging around all this treasure. But we've kind of safely made it through this hallway. We come back out these doors and head to the east. This hallway goes down for about 30 more feet. Of course, another dungeon turn is going to expire as I do that. We're coming up at the end of the hour. So actually, before we walk down there, because we think this room is pretty safe, we do rest for our turn in there. And I will roll for the wandering monsters. Okay, so it just says a 1 on a d6 indicates some hobgoblins. Nope. So we're able to safely recover for about 10 minutes, passing that hour, and then lighting another torch. I have to say, at this moment right now, this little sheet situation is really helping me out. Like, I'm feeling like I'm much better organized than flipping pages in a notebook back and forth. All right, so the next dungeon turn begins. We come out of this door. We head about 30 feet down that hallway. We see that it opens into a wider hallway after that, and it looks like it breaks off to the north a little bit. It also breaks to the south. Ignore that little line I put there. This sort of rough staircase here seems to resemble the same staircase I saw in the south end, so I'm beginning to put things together that this passageway may have like crumbled and opened up on its own. So do I go north? Do I continue east, or do I head south? I think they want to head north. They're trying to do it. They know like south and east is the way out. I think they're kind of figuring out like how to clear this space. So they see that the tunnel ahead, about 30 feet, the reach of their torchlight opens up somewhat. They check in this little alcove and they find a clay statue of a snake-headed humanoid. Now, Virago and Talira and Irwin recognize this kind of statue from the kobold lair. Grebe once again speaks to it in Dwarvish. It does not come alive. It doesn't seem to have anything that's worth anything. I mean, it just looks like a clay statue. They've collected one statue that they're not sure is worth anything. They leave this one behind and continue to the north, where the hallway turns again to the east, and they can see at the reach of their torchlight, at least 30 feet of this hallway goes out there. So they walk 30 feet along. They all try to listen for noises. If there are any, someone hears some, but no, there's nothing. They're reasonably confident. It's almost seeming like if this is the hobgoblin's lair, which they would suspect it is because of that art, the mural depicting the defeat of some humans, maybe the hobgoblins aren't home. They see that there's a door here in this passage. They don't know that it's a passage. They see a door to the south, and they see it's open on this end. So not wanting to get jumped if they go in that door, they first head to this widening of the passage to the east, and they see a faded mural depicting dwarves mining, decorating the east wall. Grebe kind of exclaims, knowing that this is the historic and legendary dwarves of Gunderholfen, probably some of their original art. This mural has been defaced, though, and smeared with hobgoblin feces. And they see a twisted, broken key lying on the ground. So we do pick up that key, wipe it off, spray a little hand sanitizer on it, and we head back to that door to the south. My listening check from before, well, that's kind of what they think. They listen to this door as well. So they just go ahead, they get in position, and they open it up. They find a room full of weapons and armor, and it is rather large. It's about 35 feet by 20 feet. There are 10 falchions, 20 halberds, 5 spitums, 5 lancers, 2 bardiches, 10 spears, 5 scimitars, 25 morning stars, 8 large shields, 400 arrows and barrels, 5 empty quivers, and 12 suits of hobgoblin mail. Oh boy. So this is basically a treasure trove for my characters. I mean, that 12 suits of hobgoblin mail, that is worth something. I got 8 people. We have a pretty safe passageway out. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, or it's 8 o'clock at this point. They've only spent an hour in this hobgoblin lair. Well, what do they get by going back to Longfelt today? I don't think they get much of anything. So they spend their 10 minutes mapping these rooms, and they talk about it. Virago and Irwin negotiate. Irwin says, this could really help out the Dobahai Division if we could just sort of take possession of all these weapons. That would give my mercenaries equipment. It would help me hire new mercenaries and bring them into the division, and it would help you out, of course, because I would give you the rights of first refusal to hire us, for whenever you're headed out. Virago likes the sound of that, wonders if there is any value to this party themselves taking it and trying to split it for treasure. Doesn't really think there is. They've picked up so many morning stars. Virago has their own morning star. They've got a bunch of javelins, spears. They do want the arrows. My party definitely wants the arrows. Zenith, who has a bow, Irwin has a bow, and Talira has a bow. They're each going to take 20 arrows. Actually, they're going to take 32 arrows because that's what I have space for here. So between the three of them, they take 32 arrows. They are mapping down this room. They know, so they know how to return to it. And I don't think anyone needs anything more than this. And I'm thinking about now, how do we trap it if we want to trap this room? But I don't think there's a good way to do that. I think what they agree upon is, let's keep going. Let's do another hour or so here. Definitely before we advance to another level, let's come back to this room, gather what we can carry, and head out of here. They all agree that's the best plan of action. They head out of this room, back around that hallway, and I kind of have hit the limits of my map. I shouldn't have drawn this room where I did. This hallway continues to the east here, very far, actually. And they realize this sort of sandy patch to the south is probably going to connect to this other sandy patch that they found in the south. Looks like just a hallway collapsed within there. So they start heading to the east. They see that there are like stairs ahead going down. This is interesting because it's kind of the same situation that I found in the goblin area, which is that I've got high ground because I've got these stairs. So seeing the stairs, Talira is going to, what the heck, try her hide in the shadows, which is a 10. She's not successful, but it doesn't really matter. She has the high ground. She creeps down and sees these stairs go down. It looks like they go down about 20 feet. So I have to creep about halfway down before I can peer down the rest of this tunnel, where I see a door that has a barred window in it. And Gunderholfen specifies 4 hoblins can be seen sitting on chairs in that area right there. So that's really interesting. I see this. I'm worried about bringing a party of 8 people down these stairs. 8 people walking down these stairs and then up to the door is going to, for sure, arouse a lot of suspicion. We gently leave the iron chest up here and we creep down the stairs as well as we can, sticking to the sides of the wall. Each of my characters holding their weapon of choice. Faqual is going to stand up at the top of the stairs and he's ready with magic missile. Like if anything starts going up those stairs, he's firing that magic missile at it. Talira and Virago have real reasons to be afraid of hobgoblins. One of them slew their first companion in the very first outing they had to Gunderholfen. They know how tough these things are, and to see 4 of them is really frightening. So Faqual is stationed at the top of the stairs. The rest of them are creeping down the sides. It's another place where, if I were DMing a game of 5th edition or another like modern game, I would probably have those hobgoblins roll perception checks versus the stealth ability of my party. And I'm just on the top of my head, I'm not aware of like a stealth mechanic that I can use for this besides that hide in the shadows. We're not in the shadows, but realistically, like any light in this room is not going to extend too far outside that door. It looks like I've got 20 feet at the bottom of the stairs, which is all I want. I want to kind of get to to the bottom of the stairs where I'm just out of the reach of like any torch light. So they're kind of positioned along the stairs, and then this is what they do. Grebe in Dwarvish tells that clay golem that they found, knock. And this little clay guy starts walking up to that door and knocks on it. The hobgoblins, their suspicion is aroused. They look out the window. Oh, I see there is a chance that they can see people outside the window. But I think because of the way I played this, they're not going to see me on the stairs, at least right now. So I'm going to play that 50% chance of, do they see the feet of my characters along the stairs as they look out at this golem, this clay golem that has come up and knocked on the door? Do they see my characters? Yeah, of course. Of course I roll low when it's the monsters. They see a whole bunch of feet lined up. They see this weird golem in front, and they start shouting. They're like, telling everybody to grab their weapons in their hobgoblin language. And I'm going to roll for initiative. They have the initiative somehow. And there are 4 of them. It says they've been engrossed in gambling. Of course they are, because that's what monsters do. In a dungeon, they gamble and they drink. So these 4 hobgoblins get up from this table to grab their bows and arrows and try to attack my party. Seeing all this happen, my party retreats up the stairs another 20 feet or so the hobgoblins can't get to them with arrows. Because they do that, my party also cannot fire through that window, which would come with a penalty anyway. Do the hobgoblins proceed out to look at us? I don't think they do. I mean, I think there's like, they're safe in there. So the next round passes in kind of a standoff where we're up on the stairs, the golem is out there, Grebe says again to the golem, knock, and the golem starts pounding on the door. One of the hobgoblins, I think, is going to shoot an arrow at that golem, and a 1 doesn't do it. On the next round, the standoff continues. My party's wondering, does this make any sense? Should we beat a retreat because they're probably coming after us? What can we do here? You know, this is a window that's like, it's barred in that it's not like a glass window. So not only would my missiles pass through, but my burning oil would pass through. So I'm wondering about that. Grebe tells the, let's see, roll for initiative. Wow, that was a crack. Hobgoblin goes again, fires at the golem. 17 is going to hit. 5 hit points. Let's see what this does. I don't think I have stats on the golem, so I'm just going to back me to the monsters chapter to see if they've got a golem in here that I can use. I keep saying golem. Was it a homunculus? I think it was a golem. Actually, it might not yet. Let's see how many hit points this guy has. 1 plus 8. So yeah, that 5 does not kill my golem. Grebe on her turn will say to the golem, come. So the golem runs back to Grebe. At that point, Faqual puts a flask of burning oil in its hand. I just looked it up to see if there's a limit on like the commands that I could give the golem, but apparently there aren't. So Faqual puts this burning oil in its hand, and Grebe says in Dwarvish, gives it the command to throw this through the window. So the golem runs back up to that window and just slams this burning oil in there, which will then explode once it hits. I know another thing that's been called to my attention is the sort of splash damage that comes from burning oil. Trying not to worry too much about that. I know it's like an optional rule, or it's like a homebrew rule that's really common, but not that I want to ignore it. I just don't want to be thinking of an optional rule. I don't know what it is. It's like it's too much noise in my brain. I just want like a D8, burning oil flask. So throws the burning oil in that room. What I'm going to do is roll the D20 to see if it hits any of those. I'm going to roll the D20 4 times just to see if I hit anyone in there. I guess a flat like 20 Thaco, so I miss. 12. What? I don't think that's going to hit them. Nope. So they've got a 5 AC. There we go. It hits at least one of them. Misses everybody else. But one of them's going to hit with this damage. One of these hobgoblins goes up in flames, and there is at least burning flame there for another round. With that happening, my characters will then charge the door. I'm going to roll per hobgoblin, basically to see if there's 3 hobgoblins alive. Does the first one guard? Yes. Does the second one? Yes. Does the third one? No. So basically the third one attends to his flaming companion, and the other 2 are poised and ready for my invasion. I roll initiative. My characters get to go first. Yeah, so Virago's going to come down Is Virago really my toughest? I don't think so at this point. Irwin is my toughest, really. So Irwin comes down, shield in hand, opens that door. This door is not locked. Irwin opens it, and everyone else who has come to the bottom of the stairs just lets fly with their arrows. So here goes Talira. 19 hits. Does 2 points of damage on one of those hobgoblins. Doesn't take it out. Zenith. Bow. Misses. Blaine. Sling. Hits. 5 points of damage. Does some pretty bad damage to the second hobgoblin. Grebe also has a sling. 3 points of damage to the third hobgoblin. That was my missiles. Faqual does nothing on the magic turn. And then on the melee turn, I don't know exactly how this works within the phases of combat, but assuming Irwin is holding the door, Virago, Pelagius come running in. That's who's coming in. So Virago comes in with their sword. 12 isn't going to hit, but man, I wish it would have. And then Pelagius with that Morning Star, which is also D8. 13, 18 misses. So I've got 3 pretty badly wounded hobgoblins here, and it is their turn. They're armed with those ranseurs. So they're going to attack who came through the door in melee. Here goes one at Pelagius. 15. Pelagius has a 4 armor class that does hit for 3 points of damage. Pelagius is pretty badly hurt from that ranseur. Second one swings at Virago. 11 plus Virago's AC of 3 is not going to get there, so clanks off their armor. And the third hobgoblin was spinning its round, like seeing if it could save its friend. Roll initiative. I get to go first. Virago. Natural 20. 1 point of damage is actually going to do it for one of those hobgoblins, so at least it gets. I can erase one of them. Pelagius with the Morning Star. The other 10 doesn't do it. Irwin now steps into the room because she can with her spear. Oh, doesn't hit. Grebe grabs their warhammer and swings. 18 doesn't hit. This is crazy. And of course, now here come the arrows of Zenith. Nope. And Talira. Nope. I did get one comment this week that said, "Dude, your dice are cursed." I have had a long think about when to replace these. Hobgoblin's turn. Swings at Pelagius. Pelagius falls. Swings at Virago. Misses. Okay, do I do the death save for Pelagius? Or do I play by the rules that took Hinth out? Hinth felt like a liability. Pelagius has been pretty good to me. So here comes a death save. Fails. Pelagius, once again, hardly knew you. Oh my god, that infuriates everyone. Initiative goes to the hobgoblins this round. They are overcome with a lot of fighters right in their little dungeon, like literally a dungeon, although my characters are not taking a second to look around themselves and figure that out. Looking for their morale. 8, 7. All right. Stay in the fight. So there are 2 hobgoblins. The one that was tending to its companion is now fighting. It swings at Irwin. Hits Irwin and does 4 points of damage. Irwin falls. The next one swings at Grebe. Just going down the list. Misses. Irwin does her death save. 12. It's a real short-lived run for the Dobahai Division. Talira shouts to Faqual. Faqual, get in here and fight! Faqual comes running in. Virago's in there. Blaine, Talira, Grebe, Zenith. Talira with her dagger on one of them. Hits. Takes it out. Virago with their sword on the other. Hits. I think it has 1 hit point left. Faqual stabs out with his dagger. Misses. Blaine swings that warhammer. Hits. Takes it out. Both of them dead. 2 of their companions have fallen. Both failed their death saves. Whew. It looks like it's going to be the Grebe dozen, or the Grebe 3 for the new hireling group. My Characters are really feeling defeated, but there's something about a majority of your characters surviving that kind of makes it okay. I hate that. They see across from them is another of those doors with a window in it. And they see here is an iron gate, like a prison. The room is split in two by a long row of bars running from east to west across the room. 4 hobgoblin guards are gambling and drinking around a table in the center of the room. There's a grate near the north that covers a pit that they seem to have been using as a toilet. There's a crank on the wall, which we can surmise opens the gate, as we've run into this mechanic before. And in the cell is a captured human. He is 60 years old. He's in frail health, and he is shocked. He's seen 2 people and 4 hobgoblins fall in this quick and insane melee that just happened in front of him. Virago puts their hand on Greeb's shoulder and says, "Look after Irwin and Pelagius," and turns their attention to this man in the cell and says, "Sir, who are you?" And the man in the cell says, "My name is Matthew. I'm a farmer outside Longfelt. Please, can you help me out of here? Can you take me back to my farm safely?" Virago says, "We can, if we need to bring some other things out of this terrible place. Can you help us with that?" Matthew says, I'm frail and old, but I'll do what I can." Greeb, Zenith are, shocked again at how quickly they've lost companions. Talira, Virago, Faqual, and Blaine are also just horrified all over again. They've lost 3 people on this outing. Blaine is saying prayers over the bodies. They are pushing the hobgoblin bodies over to that pit that they used as a toilet. They crank the crank on the wall. The bars come up. Matthew is free. Virago gives Matthew a ration and some water so that he can drink and eat for the first time in days. He doesn't look like he's going to be stout enough to help carry out armor or weapons. My characters then spike this door. They take those 10 spikes they found in another door that Irwin pulled out, and they jam them in here. They grab the bodies of their fallen companions. They head up the stairs, and they head back to that armory where Greeb says, I don't know if it's worth taking anything out of here. And Virago says, "Trust me, that hobgoblin mail armor is going to be worth something in the city." There are 12 suits of it. Suit of armor weighs 400 coin. I'm over encumbered at like 1,600 coin. I'm saying technically we could probably bring 8 of those out, and we are fully encumbered. We grab that iron case. The golem can carry the iron chest. We head out. We've had to rest for a turn, so I'm going to have to roll for wandering hobgoblins. In fact, we've probably spent 2 more turns looking at everything. We rest for a turn, feeding Matthew, refreshing ourselves. Roll for wandering hobgoblins. None come. We move at a pretty encumbered speed. It's only 30 feet per 10 minutes. So we're not moving very quickly. We're dragging all this chainmail. Get my turns up here. So 9 a.m. we go. We're going to cut back through this southerly passage through the sandy collapse. Just hoping it's a shortcut. So we go another 30 feet. Another 30 feet. This is really slow. Another 30 feet gets us into this room and then into the guard passageway where we're going to lock ourselves and rest for 10 minutes. And there are hobgoblins. There are D4 hobgoblins as we get to that area, and I rolled a 1 on the D4. So we run in. We're over encumbered. So do we surprise the hobgoblin? No, it is there. Roll initiative. We get to act first. Talira, who is not strong enough to do anything, has her bow at the ready and fires into that hobgoblin very quickly. 17 is not going to do it. Faqual also would not be carrying anything. He has taken up someone's sling, so he fires that sling and does not hit. Zenith also would not be carrying anything, so Zenith fires her bow. Does hit for 1 point of damage. That hobgoblin has 4 hit points total, so it now has 3. It's carrying a halberd, which I believe is like a big stick with a blade on it or something like that. And I think everyone else has to spend their turn dropping all these suits of armor. This hobgoblin can only swing at one of them. I mean, Virago's the biggest. It's always going to be Virago. 12 does miss Virago, thank goodness. That would have taken them out. So top of the round, Hobgoblin gets to go first. Morale stays in it. For some reason thinks he can do this. Takes another swing, misses. And now Virago. Actually, Virago is swinging their longsword, but gets a natural 27 points, cuts this Hobgoblin in half. The Hobgoblin is carrying 12 copper and 4 gold. In fact, every Hobgoblin I've fought has been carrying that. So I've got 60 copper and 20 gold to add to my stash. It's 20 more XP there. But we're almost out. We head out this gate. The way we know through, we're now just like dragging armor, bodies of our companions. They pick up Hinth. It's going to take them a long while, but they make it through back to the goblin area. They can lock that door on the other side of the guard room, and they can make it up this passage and out into the Ganfall Swamp. Once again, Blaine says prayers, consecrates the ground. They dig graves. They bury their companions, taking the belongings that they can. And then out of some of their, their armor and shields, whatever, they fashion a makeshift sled that they can drag all this hobgoblin armor back to the city. It's still early morning, so they're going to spend 2 watches of the day getting back to Longfelt with Matthew the farmer. So I roll encounters along the way for 3 watches. None. 1, of course. I'm just going to go ahead and roll the 3rd. None. So I have 1 encounter on the way through the swamp. Ganfall Swamp encounter table, D20, 17. Ogres, fantastic. There's only 1 of them, and it is 80 yards away. As we were walking through the swamp, we see this ogre carrying a large spiked club. I don't think any of my party have ever seen an ogre in the flesh, and they are pretty terrified. Does the ogre notice them? Yes, the ogre sees this movement over there, but I don't think there's any way he's going to approach, even though my party has been diminished. There are still 6 people clanking along with a lot of armor, and just to make it clear, they all sort of hold up a spear so that it's visible to this ogre that there's 6 people with 6 spears that it's going to have to contend with, and that ogre passes on by. They spend the rest of the day getting back to Matthew's farm, and Matthew rewards them with a gold necklace that is worth 200 gold. They then head back into town and back to their favorite place to stay, the Silver Flogger. They get their room for the night. They do whatever they would as far as like changing clothes or cleaning up or something. And they head out to a jeweler to pawn this gold necklace and recover that 200. And they also head over to the armor that they have used before, whose name I could not remember, of course. Oh, maybe I haven't used it before, but it's the Adventurer's Shop and Smithy, where they meet these 3 brothers, Pultaney, Gunth, and Harford, or at least Irwin has met them before. They recognize the party, and Harford says, "Oh, whatever happened to your friend?" And Virago, and with a very sad look on their face, says, I hate to inform you, but on our most recent incursion into the dungeon, our friend Irwin did not make it out. But we were able to recover these suits of armor from the hobgoblins that set upon us, and we wondered if you had any use for them. Chainmail would normally cost about 40 gold. I got 8 suits. That would be like new, maybe 320 gold. Harford's going to pay something between 10 and 50% for each of those. I guess I'll split the difference. He pays 30% of that, so he's going to give them around 90 gold for all of this. They're, as happy as they can be. They're at least content with that. They're done with this armor. They head back to the inn to drink and recoup, reset themselves, kind of figure out what's going to happen to Greeb's gang if they're going to head out with new hirelings. And we'll figure that out in session 10.